Resellers, you have landed on episode number 200 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is January 15th, 2025. Yes, we made it to 200. I want to thank everyone out there listening for supporting this podcast because I wouldn't keep doing it without the support of my audience. I'm proud to say that the 200 episodes have been consecutive. I haven't missed a week since the very first one on March 24th, 2021. So we are going on 4 years. I really love how the podcast has evolved, celebrating the eBay community and hearing from sellers from all walks of life, all seller levels, and most importantly, how every seller has valuable experience to share, even if they don't think they do. Sometimes when reaching out to guests, they think they don't have much to contribute, but the episode always comes together beautifully. So I am sending a big thank you to all my listeners for supporting this podcast by tuning in and listening, and of course, telling your friends about it. My guest today is Jane in Oklahoma, so let's dive into the chat. Hi, listeners, and welcome back. I have Jane with us today. And how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And you're in the middle of a snow event.
Yes.
Where are you located?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay, so not much snow there throughout the year.
We can have. It's kind of depends on the year and it depends on the day. This is Oklahoma.
Okay.
Will Rogers said if you don't like the weather in Oklahoma, wait 5 minutes. And that's kind
Yeah.
of
Exactly. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're inside and warm and not having to be out in it.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, normally we start off with a little bit about you and what brought you to eBay and when.
I've been selling since 2017, but I have been working from home since 1989.
Wow.
Yeah. I worked for a publishing company. I have a graphic design degree, and I worked for advertising agencies and in publications. And the last big stint I had was producing telephone directories.
Oh.
We all know where those went.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had a lifetime career of producing telephone directories, and in the process of doing that, I learned about photography, I learned about copywriting, I learned about advertising, all different kinds of companies. Accuracy was a big deal. I started out on the boards producing everything myself, and I ended up managing the people that did that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to turn on a computer until I started my own business when everybody got laid off.
Right.
I worked for a small company for years, and then they got bought out by a Dun and Bradstreet company, a large company, and they put me in charge of the whole state of Oklahoma's production. So I lived in 2 cities at the same time for 2 years. That was an interesting thing.
Oh gosh.
I worked in Oklahoma City and I worked here, and I had graphic designers, typesetters, and proofreaders in both offices working for me. And I split the week, drove up and down the turnpike, all that kind of stuff. Well, they closed the Oklahoma operations eventually and laid everybody off. If we didn't want to move somewhere crazy, which I didn't want to move anywhere crazy. So I took the layoff. I was like, I'm going to stay here. I don't know how they're going to do in these other markets because they're not doing well here. And turns out they didn't do well in the other markets. So I'm glad I didn't uproot myself. So as a result of that, the salesmen who were selling all these Yellow Pages ads, they started their own companies because this company had just abandoned those markets and they needed somebody to produce them. Mm-hmm. So here I was working from home, and I had to learn over the course of time how to produce them on the computer, how to send, then I would print the pages from the computer. Then we ended up sending CDs back and forth. Then we ended up doing emails, and I'd send 400 or 500 page phone books back and forth to the printer in emails,
Oh gosh.
PDF files. So I learned all that. Okay. So we hit up, and in the meantime, I worked in film and commercials and motion pictures because I had a flexible schedule, and that was fun. It was just kind of a side thing, and I could do it because I had a flexible schedule, and so that added to my income some, and it made my life really interesting. And I got out of the house because I was working after a job where you work with so many people and you're traveling to go to. Okay, it's just me sitting here in front of this desk by
Mhm.
myself with a dog. It was quite a different thing. So the film stuff kind of got me out doing something with people, and it was fun and it was interesting. And I will never watch a motion picture with the same point of reference as I had. Now I know all the stuff that goes on to do this and that, and I see all kinds of glitches, and it's kind of funny, but that was fun, and I did that in between. So
Yeah,
then,
I think if you don't work in the film industry, you just have no clue how much goes on to produce that product. It's just so many people and so much time, and we just sit there and watch the movie for an hour and a half, and it might have taken years to make it.
yes, exactly. And and I worked one of my jobs, I worked up to being production coordinator, which meant I had my fingers in everything. And I had production assistants running around doing errands, and we had to send film back and forth for the dailies every day. We had to make sure all the actors were picked up at the airport. We had to provide, housing and transportation and food for people. And I mean, it was just everything. And then
Mhm.
make sure everybody was on set on time. And it was fun, but it was a lot of work, and it was challenging, but I like challenging because
Mhm.
my job in corporate America was very challenging. That Oklahoma City office was challenging. and, so,
Did you?
and so it was kind of a battleground, but I enjoyed it because it was challenging and I liked the people I worked with and stuff. So
Mhm.
we got it done. You know,
Good for you.
that's the way that went. So, fast forward a few years, I could see that the phone book industry was going to be on a decline because of all the online stuff and the phones and the cell phones and the texting and all that, and I could see it coming, and there was a slight decline, and I thought, well, I need to do something else. So I started taking pictures for Getty Images and iStock Photo, and I still have
Oh,
914 pictures available for download and passive income coming from that.
nice. Good for
I threw
you.
that in at the time. This is before eBay, before I knew anything about eBay. Well, I was buying on eBay, but I wasn't selling on eBay. So then
Mhm.
later on, a friend of mine showed me how to use eBay. And I sold a pair of boots that I had I had bought them. They were almost new, but they just weren't comfortable. And I sold those pretty quickly. And I thought, okay, well, I can do this too. I'll just add this to the pile. So I'm still doing graphic design. I'm doing photography. I'm doing eBay. I'm working in commercials here and there, blah, blah, blah. And so I did that and got, started on eBay, but not doing it all the time because I'm doing all this other stuff.
Mhm.
So then the opportunity came up for me to do real estate photography for online tours. So I'm doing
Okay.
all this real estate photography on top of everything else. Still working from my home. Now my home I had ended up buying a larger home because I had rented an office for a while because I had to have extra help for this phone book thing. And I finally decided, I need a bigger house. If I get a bigger house, I won't have to be throwing my money away on this rent. So I bought a house that was twice the size of the one I was living in before. And so I could have people come and work for me. Well, down the
Mhm.
road, that stopped because the phone book production stopped, and started slowing down. So then I started working more on selling on eBay. So seriously, I probably have been probably 2017, 18 is when I really started trying to sell a lot on eBay. I mean, I threw a few things up in 2016, 17. So that's how I got started. And I also sell a little bit on Etsy.
Okay. So what was the catalyst of like, oh, I'm going to try to sell this thing on eBay?
Well, then on top of everything else, I have a background of loving to go to flea markets and collecting things. And I've been doing that since I was in my 20s.
Uh-huh.
And so I thought all this stuff, all this time I'd go to these places and I think, oh, I would buy that, but I don't need that. But then I think, how much neat stuff have I seen and have passed up? And if I can turn around with and look at it through a new lens, no pun intended with the photography stuff.
Good one. Yep.
Yeah, and where I can sell this stuff and make some money, then I can possibly be successful at this. Of course, everybody makes the mistakes at the beginning of buying things that are not going to sell that well because they don't know how to check sell-through rates, and there's a lot to learn. And so it wasn't terrible because I didn't spend a lot of money for anything, and I didn't have a cash flow problem because of all this other income that was coming in. It wasn't like I'm just starting out cold turkey. Okay, this is all I'm doing is eBay, so I've been in a little bit different boat. I still am, because I do so many other things, and I'm still doing most of that stuff except for the film stuff. That's kind of declined. So, but that's hard work. You really need to be kind of young to do some of that. Those long hours and you're on your feet. And that's working in the film industry is hard work. So that's where I am.
And I don't think people realize that because it all looks so easy when the final product is put together. It's just, you don't realize there's 50 people behind the camera, like that you don't see that made that happen.
Yeah, and don't trip over the electrical wires, and you go to work at 4 p.m. and get off at 7 o'clock in the morning. And you do a lot of shooting at night.
Right.
A lot of interiors are done at night because you can get into places where there's not a lot of foot traffic and put your own people there.
I see.
Like if you need to shoot at the mall or a restaurant, well, nobody's going to be there at 2 o'clock in the morning. So
not.
this stuff in the middle of the night, put your own chef in there and your waitress and whoever. So,
yeah. Call your friends and your cousins. Hey, I need some bodies in this.
Yeah, well,
okay. Now you mentioned due to your inclement weather, you had to cancel some classes that you teach.
Oh yeah. I teach dog agility.
Oh, I love that.
I train people to teach their dogs how to do dog agility. I have 2 dogs of my own, and I've competed for years. I've been doing it about 20 years. Not teaching. I've been teaching maybe 10 to 12, but I teach advanced and intermediate levels of dog agility. And I had to cancel my classes tonight because they're at night. And of course, the only person that kind of whined about it was this little guy he's not a little guy. He's a big guy. He's 13. Of course, he doesn't know. He doesn't drive. He doesn't realize how it's going to be.
He was disappointed.
Yeah, he sent me a frowny face. I was looking forward to it. I was so excited, and I was like, oh. And then his mom was right on the heels of him, and she said that was a smart decision.
Right. Well, at least he was enthusiastic and looking forward to it.
He was, and we all have a good time, and it's about having fun, and you have to learn too, but it's mostly about having fun and with your dogs. And I've got people, like I said, he's the youngest, and I've got people up into their mid-70s in these classes.
Oh,
in the same class with him.
Good for them.
All different breeds and all different age levels. So that's what I do. It's not a job. It's a volunteer position with the dog club.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's not a job. That's why I could just I'm not having class tonight. It's not like I have it approved by anybody.
Right. So you're not going to be out anything. Okay. So
no, not going to be out anything.
Students pay to do that?
The students pay for the classes.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And if I can, I'll do a makeup class. And if I can't, we'll miss this one. Just that happens sometimes.
Yeah,
but
that's life.
Not that much here.
Yeah, life happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we've got all the background now. So let's talk about some things you've sold on eBay, because you post your fun sales on the Facebook group, and that's where I found you trolling for sellers.
Yes. Okay. Things I've sold. Okay. Well, the last thing was that purse, and I put it up recently, and it was a Isabella Fiore tote bag, handbag.
Okay.
And it was a large purse, and it was black fabric with hummingbirds with beading, real fancy beading all over it, and leather handles, and then the whole interior was lined with like this checkered gold fabric and it just looked expensive. And I don't sell purses. I don't think I have another purse that's up for sale. I mean, I usually don't even look at purses, but I was wandering around in Salvation Army, which was over by the grocery store that I go to sometimes. And I just went in there, and it turned out they were having half price day. So I
Mhm.
just put it, I'm going to do a quick swoop of this, mostly glassware and stuff like that. That's what I look for. And I saw this purse hanging there and I thought, well, that looks kind of interesting. It's got this hummingbird and the beading and it's large. And I opened it up and looked at the name and thought, don't know what that is. So I looked real quick on eBay and they had some by the same name that were selling for like $50, $60, but they were smaller. They didn't have the beading. They weren't fancy like that one. So I thought, you know what? This is half price. This is $4. If I can sell it for $25, even I don't know anything about it. So I took it home and I couldn't find anything like it, but I found one that was similar and it was up around $175. And so I just threw a $200 price tag on it and it sold within, what did it sell? 14 days it took, 14 days.
Oh, very good
So,
flip.
yeah, for
Yeah.
full asking price and off it went. And I knew nothing about that brand.
And tell me the name again.
Isabella Fiore. It's
Okay.
Fiore is the way you spell it.
Yes, the
And I,
listeners will want to know that.
yeah, I'd never heard of it, you know.
Good
But
for you.
and
Well,
then
apparently,
there was
Salvation Army hadn't heard of it either, or they would have marked it up.
probably, well, they had it at $8. I
Oh,
guess it's
right.
been there long enough to be up to $8, and then it was half price. So I don't know. It just, and maybe it was just behind a bunch of stuff until I saw it, because sometimes
Could
that's
be.
what happens. Things are
Hmm.
on the bottom shelf. Like recently, I sold a Sturgis motorcycle rally mug, and yeah, they were 50 cents at this place, and I never buy mugs there because they're usually $3, and I'm not paying $3 for a mug to sell it for $12, and I usually don't even look. And that way, that day they were 50 cents, and it was on the bottom shelf, back behind everything, and it was handcrafted pottery from the Sturgis motorcycle rally, and I sold
Very
it.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've noticed that too. Sometimes if it's an effort to get to the item, like very bottom shelf, push to the back,
Mhm.
um, most people aren't going to bend down and look under there. I mean, you really have to be a treasure hunter these days.
Yeah, and I kind of like that part of it, actually. I
Yeah.
like to have to dig through stuff, and because sometimes you find the best stuff. Case in point, my mom lived in Arkansas for a while. She passed in 2019, but I
Oh,
was going back and forth a lot. But during
okay.
the end of her life, because she was in a nursing home. My sister also lived down there. And
Hmm.
so I went, but she was in a nursing home. I'd go visit her. I didn't have a whole lot else to do. So I would go hit the thrift stores in Fort Smith is where she was. And I love the thrift stores in Fort Smith. I haven't gone down there since she passed. I learned them all. And I went to this thrift store and it was a mom and pop thing that had just opened. Well, maybe a year they'd been open. And I picked up this cup. It would look pretty. And I turned it over and it said Hermes Limoges on the bottom of it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, Hermes, no price tag because this, they just go up there and they tell you how much things are. And so I went up there and they said, how much is that? And they said, 50 cents. So I said, okay. So I took it home, back to my sister's house, and it was a Friday. And she was working that day. And so I took it home and I started looking at it. And it was a large coffee cup. It wasn't a teacup size, but it wasn't as big as a soup bowl either. It was kind of in between. And so I looked it up and I found it, and with the saucer, it was selling for $200. And I thought, okay, I wonder if they have the saucer. So my sister said, well, I want to go back tomorrow when I'm off work. So I said, okay, we're going back and I'm going to look for that saucer. And sure enough,
Wow.
the other side of the store, at the bottom of a pile of small plates, I found the saucer. And they charged me 75 cents for the saucer. And so I'd spent $1.25, and
Uh-huh.
I sold it in 3 weeks, $200. Full asking price plus shipping.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's
And I was like, I didn't know. I mean, I knew Hermes because I've bought some of their ties and resold those. That's one of my
great.
favorite things to find. They're hard to find, but
Mhm.
I've found 5 of them, and I like to look for those. So
Yeah, those I found a couple and it took them a while to sell, but yeah, that's good money there and fits in with that. Doesn't take up much space, easy to ship,
mhm.
all that criteria that we like as sellers. The faster you can get it listed and get it out the door, the better.
Yep, exactly. That's I had one that was damaged. I bought it at Salvation Army, and I think they charged me 50 cents for it. It was the Hermes tie. I mean, some of these I didn't pay more than $1 for any of them.
Mhm.
any of the Hermes. I had 5 of them. But it was damaged. It needed repair. It was going to need some professional repair. And I still sold it for like $17, even though it
Mhm.
needed repair. And so I thought I'm picking these up even if they're torn up because it needed.
Well, and you never know, it could have been purchased by a shop owner that was going to display it and have it folded so the damage didn't show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what people are using these things for.
Nope.
Good for you. Okay, what else is on your list?
Oh, my famous orange juice cans are on my list. In college,
What is that all about?
in college, instead of drinking beer, I drank a whole lot of Donald Duck orange juice in the little cans, 6 ounce.
Okay.
They had a vending machine in the dorm, and I would go down there and I would drink orange juice cans like it was, drink orange juice like it was going out of style. And
Mhm.
so I saved up my orange juice cans and made a pyramid in my dorm window with orange juice cans. Because everybody else was doing that with beer cans. So I thought, well, I can just save
Right.
orange
Yeah.
juice cans.
Why not?
Somehow, over all these years, I have kept those orange juice cans and I had no idea I still had them. I found them out in the garage in a big trash bag, not maybe last year, year before, probably 200 of them. I have sold, what, 50? I've sold 17 of them, and I have made $225 selling 17 of these orange juice cans, and I bet I have another 100 or more to go.
Oh, wow. Are you selling them individually or in lots?
Individually. But sometimes
Oh.
somebody, and there's 3 different ones, they're just a few years apart, but there's 3 different styles of them, and sometimes they'll buy one of each. Sometimes they'll just buy 1 or 2. Sometimes it depends on which one they want. And they all look alike. Unless I have a really badly dented one, I can use the same picture. It's like I just keep throwing it back up there.
Right.
And there's another thing that I do that with, and that's the Arby's winter scene glasses.
Okay.
You're familiar with those? It was like in the 80s, early 90s. Arby's had this thing. If you bought like a large drink, you get one of these wine glasses or drinking glasses. They had different styles of them. And they
Okay.
had this frosted snow scene on them. And they were very popular and they're really pretty. And I started buying those and selling them. Now, they don't sell for maybe between $8 and $10 a piece. But once you photograph that one time, I have sold 52 of them. And
Excellent.
I have made $513 from selling 52.
Now, these are ones that were your own collection, or did you
No,
find?
no. I didn't have 52. I found one this last week, and I
You
hadn't
keep
had one
finding
for.
them. Okay.
I just look for them everywhere I go. I say, well, I go through the clear glass and I look for the Arby's glasses, and I just found I hadn't had one for a couple of months. It was kind of low supply right before Christmas because a lot of people like them around Christmas. And I thought, well, they sell all year round. Kind of like what you always say, stuff will sell all year round, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And I was in it was like a charity thrift store, and there was one up on the shelf. And I grabbed it and I brought it home and I just stuck that picture back up there that I've been using a zillion times. And it's the same thing. It looks the
Mhm.
same.
Right.
It'll sell. I'll get $8 to $10 for it, and then I'll wait till I get another one, and then I'll throw the picture back up there again. And the whole listing is still good.
So have you
Yeah.
thought about creating a multi-quantity listing so people can buy more than one?
I have thought about it. I haven't really done it because I don't know. So I usually end up with uneven numbers for some reason. I don't know why I get 3 or 5, and sometimes
Oh,
I've
I
sold
see.
people,
Okay. So
you
you
know.
don't have a big stockpile.
No, I don't have a big stockpile. Like right now, all I have is one.
Okay,
And
I see. Right.
all I
That makes
have.
sense. So
All
you're
I
just
have.
selling them as you're finding them. You're
Mhm.
not stockpiling. Okay. And
Mhm.
back to orange juice cans, about how much do you get for those a piece?
Orange juice cans are I get a little bit more for those. I get between $11 and $14 for those. Yeah.
For an empty
Usually.
can?
For an empty can that's 6 ounces, that has rust on it and is old, and they don't have dents. They may have some little scratches or something, but they're, one guy was going to buy all of them one time. And he said, well, can you take a picture of the tops of them? And I think what he was going to do is take the tops off of them and put them on some other kind of cans. But they
Hmm.
weren't the right kind of tops. And he was going to buy them all. He said, well, I was hoping they didn't have that stamp. It has like a number stamped in the top of it. And he said, I was hoping it didn't have that. And I said,
Oh.
too bad, because I'll buy them all. I'm like, what?
Have you received any feedback from customers about, oh, I've been looking for this, or I'm so glad you had this, I remember this?
I had one that was just hilarious. I bought this mug and I would have never bought this mug. It came in a box with a lot of other mugs at a flea market. There was this box of mugs, and I think she said it was $5 for the whole box. And there was a couple of them in there that I thought were valuable. So I thought, okay, yeah, I can do that. $5 for a whole box. Well, this mug was in there. It was the ugliest mug I think I've ever seen. It was it was like brown, or like, well, it was really beige, and the artwork on it was brown. It said Japan on the bottom, but the artwork on it looked like an untalented second grader had done this art, and it was a raccoon. It was the ugliest thing ever. But I had it. I thought, okay, I'm going to put this up for sale. So I put it up for sale, and I'm trying to find where it's written down about that. I sold it. It didn't take super long to sell, maybe a few months. And I sold it for like $12.99. And I thought, okay, who bought that? So I always wondered who would buy that mug? Because $12.99, this is back when I first started selling. $12.99 for a mug was a lot. That was before I started finding things that were worth $200. And I thought, $12.99 for that one? Well, whatever. 2 or 3 years later, I get a message from this guy going on and on about how he was so thankful that he was able to find that mug, because it had been his dad had that mug and it was his favorite, and he had broken it, and then before he found mine, he had been searching for years for the same mug, and he'd given up and thought it just didn't exist. But he didn't send me this message till 2 or 3 years later. It was really strange. I don't know if his dad had passed away and he was just thinking about it, or if he maybe just thought about it. I don't know. But it was kind of funny to hear from someone that far, away from when I sold it. Usually.
I wonder if he just came across the invoice or something printed, because how could he even know your username?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Sales are not, they're not kept in your sales record that long, like, or your purchase history if you're a buyer. I don't think, maybe they are now, but I wonder if we did used to put an invoice in there, printed off. And
Yeah.
I wonder if he was cleaning something out and just came across that.
Maybe, I don't know, but I thought that was so odd. And then there's the stories about the people that are just good people. Sometimes I buy these Pyrex lids that go on like the Visions cookware. I'll just find one for cheap, like 15, 20 cents. I'll throw it through and make, $10 on it or $8 on it. There's some bread and butter type things. Well, I had sold one to this lady, and she actually sent me a thank you note in the mail, because she had got that set as a wedding present in the 70s, and she had broken the lid to this one pan or whatever, and she had not been able to find it, and she was so grateful that I had that. And it's just kind of fun to get that kind of feedback. But the one that probably wins the prize is the lady, and I used to do this because and I still am, but I don't have the same printer. I had this big industrial printer that I would print stuff off to go to the printer for the phone books. And it took this ginormous toner cartridge that cost like $200 for this, just for the toner cartridge. If I had to order it from Quill or we couldn't get it at Office Depot. Nobody had that printer. And so, because it was kind of unusual. But I learned that I could find the toner cartridges on eBay for $30 or $40 sealed in the box. So I started buying them like that for my printer, and I was saving a lot of money. Well, one time I got one and they're sealed in the box, and it didn't work. There was something faulty about it. Well, it had been several months since I bought it. So I thought, just write that off, just order another one, because it'd been like 3 months. Because what would happen was I put a new one in, then I would order another one. Well, the thing made 8,000 copies. It took me a while to get to where I needed another one. And so I did that. Well, anyways, same thing happened to somebody that bought a toner cartridge from me. I had a printer toner cartridge, and I think it might have been from that same printer, and that printer quit working. It was no longer compatible with this new Mac that I had put in. So I sold a sealed toner cartridge, and it wasn't old. It wasn't expired. The lady got it, and I think I sold it to her for $35. She got it, and she said, it's not working. I put it in my computer. It's not in my printer. It's not working. She says,
Mhm.
and I said, okay, I'm going to send you a refund. She goes, don't worry about it. I said, no, I'm going to send you a refund because if it's not working, and this was within the time frame, I said, if it's not working, you should not have to pay for it. She goes, no, really, seriously, don't worry about it. I turned around and refunded her anyway. About 2 weeks later, I got a cashier's check in the mail from this woman. She sent me the money in a
What?
cashier's check. Yes, she went to the bank and got the money. She was going to win that argument.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, I wonder what, if she was going to sell it somewhere and, knew that she wouldn't lose her money,
Yeah,
she'd
but
get
she had to have opened it and put it in the machine to know that it didn't work.
true, true.
And so it was, and then we talked about the printer quite a bit. So I really do think she had the printer. She wasn't like
Okay.
somebody that didn't have the printer because I was talking about the particular printer and specific things about it, and she knew all about it. So I think probably what she ran into was just kind of what I ran into. Only
Hmm.
not
Right.
she was not going to let me refund her, which I thought was kind of
Wow,
interesting.
we all love customers like that.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting.
So
So
back to your lids, your pot and pan lids. I was in Goodwill a few days ago, and there was a maybe 50-ish woman with maybe a 20-ish girl, and she was showing her things to buy to resell. And so we're in the kitchen section, and the older lady says, okay, now these lids to pots and pans are great sellers because a lot of times it's a universal size. So if it's Revereware or Calphalon or, like you said, the Visions cookware, like the older ones, definitely, they're more valuable because they're not making them anymore. But she says, yeah, sometimes they're a universal size and they sell really well because it could fit on the skillet or the Dutch oven or whatever it is. And they're cheap and they don't take up much room and they're, easier to ship than a whole set of cookware. So that is definitely a thing that you can look for that is, I think, overlooked because a lot of resellers might think, oh, it's got to have the pot and the lid. Well, no, it can just be the lid.
yeah, I haven't found as many as, and I don't know if people are onto it or not, but they seem to be, they've raised their prices on those everywhere I've seen them. Now
Mm-hmm.
the little Pyrex lids with the tabs on them, I'll grab those in a heartbeat because they sell like almost as soon as you put them up because there's so many
Like the
Pyrex.
Visions cookware.
No, like the stuff that's all different colors that have the little tabs on the lids that go on the top. They have
Okay, okay.
little
Just the
tabs on the end.
regular, you're talking about the storage,
Yeah,
storage, not
yeah,
cookware.
not the
Yeah,
cook.
exactly. And
Yeah.
they have the,
And people don't know what they are a lot of times because they're just clear and they're sitting there and I'll grab them.
yeah, for you.
Yeah, I've
That's,
kind of
that's thinking
stopped.
outside the box. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, well, some of the things that I really like selling, is cross stitch kits and finished needlework.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up it was a biblical thing. It was a giant finished needlework thing. I was up at a dog show with a friend of mine and she likes to thrift too. So after we got finished running dogs all day, we'd go to hit the thrift stores. We had a great time. We were in Springfield, Missouri. And we went up there and I found this giant, it was probably 20 by 18 square. And it was a kind of like a sampler finished cross stitch thing, but it had like a Bible verse on it. And it was green and brown. I remember it was kind of like your 80s colors and stuff. The colors were kind of dated. And it was matted, but it wasn't framed. And it was 50 cents. And I bought it and I put it in the back of her van and I brought it home and I took the mat and the frame off, or the mat and the backing off because it was all faded and kind of the tape was bad and all this kind of stuff. And I sold that for $100 within like a week or two,
Very
And I told
good.
her that. She goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, I sold that thing for $100 because it was finished and it was large, and I was
Mm-hmm.
able to just roll it up and put it in a box and it was fine. It worked out great."
Mm-hmm.
And you salvage that kind of stuff. You don't know where it's going to end up if it doesn't sell. And I thought it was kind of cool that so finished needlework is a good thing. I like that. I sold a hooked wool pillow this week, that I bought for $5 and I think I sold it. It wasn't a big sale, it was 39 or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
still, I hadn't had it very long. It was at a garage sale. And then there's my three favorite people are Mary Englebright, Marjolin Baston, and Sandra Boynton. I like all of their
Yes.
products.
Yes.
I love their products. I will almost always pick up their stuff, and it usually sells pretty good.
So not just needlework, but stationery and anything else.
Stationery, mugs. They make, they make dishes. I heard you talking. I listened to a podcast of yours this morning, and you were talking about Susan Wingett. Susan Wingett makes dishes.
Yes.
And mugs and stuff, and I've sold some of her stuff. I like her too. And most recently, I think I sold some pot holders that had one of her. It was Christmas, and it had these little characters on it, and it was real cute. And this lady was so excited because she said it's going to match her daughter's dishes or some kind of thing. So I like to buy that kind of
I
stuff.
had that stuff like in the early 90s, the Susan Wingett calendars and the Mary Englebright stuff with the cherries and the black and white checkerboard stuff. And that's where your age comes in handy, is you remember that. A 25-year-old is not going to know that's, unless they're just in this world of vintage stuff, they're not going to know that's worth anything.
No, they don't. But then they may pick up something that came from Kmart that is really not worth anything. And they think it's, oh, that's so cute, I'm going to sell that and make, $20, $30. And it's not. And I was guilty of that a little bit when I first started, because everybody picks out things that they like and they think, oh, somebody else is going to like this if I like it.
Yeah.
However, the tendency to like the most expensive thing when you can't afford it, that I experienced all through my youth, kind of is coming back to pay off now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I find that with clothing, if it's something like, oh, if this doesn't sell, I'll keep this, or I'll start wearing it anyway. And that's what's going to sell, is whatever. So I started kind of going with that. If I really love it, it'll probably sell. Like the style, the colors. I like the sequiny tops, and the boho looking stuff. And feel like, oh, if I love it and I think I might wear it, it's probably going to go up for sale.
Yeah, that's especially if you wear it. Then you wear it the night before, then all of a sudden you got to wash it and do all this other stuff to get it mailed.
Yeah, and don't eat while you're wearing it.
Right.
I'm terrible about dripping stuff, which that's where I look on clothes, is right around the neckline. Like, is this person a sloppy eater like me? And they've got, that's where the stains are going to be, on the cuffs or right around the neckline.
Yeah, that's true. And I've got stuff sitting all over my house that's for sale. And somebody will come over and go, well, that's cute. Well, that's for sale. It's like
everything's for sale. I do that too. Just instead of storing everything, it's like, okay, some of that's hanging in my closet, some of that's hanging on my walls, and you just keep switching it out.
Yep. I've got that kind of thing going on around here for sure. Because I didn't buy this house with the idea that I was going to be storing inventory. I bought this house with the idea that I was going to have people working for me, which I did for a while. So it's a totally different thing.
So I'm playing I Spy with your background. Is that a stack of Longaberger baskets?
No, those are actually antique picnic baskets that are mine. They're not for sale. I have stuff stored in there, like tape and bags.
Oh, they're storage. Are those Breyer horses on the shelf?
Those are Breyer horses from my childhood. Those are not for sale either. Yes.
Yeah, and then I see a whole bunch of pictures.
I'm not selling them yet.
Okay. I do this everywhere I go, every TV show. I'm looking in the background. So are those photographs of dogs?
Oh yeah, those are my 7 dogs that I've had.
They look like collies or
Shelties.
Shelties. Oh, those are so sweet. Okay.
Yeah, they're very smart. I've had 7. I've got 2.
Really?
I have 2 at a time. Yeah, I've had 7, but most of them are 1 at a time. 3 of them are 1 at a time.
I love that breed. If I ever get another dog, it'll be that, just because they're so smart and they're smaller, but it would not be fair unless I had, room for them to run or, be outside.
Actually, that's why I got my first one, because I lived in an apartment.
Oh, really?
Yes, I wanted a Labrador. Because we'd had a Labrador growing up, and I loved that dog, and I wanted a Labrador, but I knew that a Labrador in a 1-bedroom apartment was not gonna that was not going to fly. So I got this friend of mine at work suggested a sheltie. And so we went out and I got this little sheltie. Of course, I only lived in the apartment for about a year before I bought a house in
Hmm.
the shed yard, so it wasn't like I was there forever. I wasn't planning to stay there forever. But that
Well,
size.
I'm back on the third floor, so I don't want to have to take
Oh,
the dog up and downstairs. Like I'm too lazy for that.
yeah.
It's not the dog, it's me.
Yeah,
That's
walking them is
part of the reason I did it so that I wouldn't get a dog. And I've learned to love Instacart for bringing groceries up here. I don't feel bad about it at all because I'm giving someone a job, and
Yeah.
I usually get things like substitutions better than what I paid for, or there's just extra stuff in there. I love it. That business really took off during COVID. Um, and the people who deliver my groceries are older than me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So they're doing it, I guess, during retirement. It's this nice little old couple, and I guess they're doing it during retirement. Like maybe they work half a day and they get out and do this for people, but
Well, maybe they don't want to be at home all the time.
well, yeah, I am proud to say I support Instacart 100%, and I am not ashamed of it at all.
I've never used it or any of the delivery stuff. I've always just gone to the store.
Well, I think sometimes it comes up if you're recovering from surgery or something like that where it's temporary, like you're not going to do it forever, but it sure is a nice option to have. And they're in here all the time. So I'm like, why not? I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. But hey, off the topic of eBay. So you mentioned Salvation Army. Do you like any other thrift stores?
We have a bunch of independent ones around here that are run by like the veterans, and like we have the Restore, they're run by Habitat for Humanity.
Right.
They have their own thrift store. Sertoma has one. The Howe Foundation, they deal with people that have had substance abuse issues. And there's a Family and Children's Services one. My favorite ones are the ones that are just kind of a little small. You have to dig through stuff and there's junk in there, and they don't have price tags on anything because they practically give stuff away. And there's a couple of those that I go to that they're my favorites.
Good. And I find the smaller ones, the merchandise is not as manhandled as through the Goodwill. That's just dumped into bin and then it finally gets out on the floor. And I feel like the smaller one location thrift stores, it's like the people drive up to the back door, here's their donation, it gets priced and put on the floor, and it's in better condition.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to look for it though. It's more disorganized usually.
That's true.
Goodwill.
That's true.
You can find stuff in the craziest places. It's kind of, but that's kind of fun to me. I mean, I don't mind that. Some people don't like to dig through stuff. I like the junky. I'd rather go out in the garage or down in the basement at an estate sale and see what I can find that people don't have a clue about.
Right.
It's kind of a game. It's almost like a game. Okay, what can I find here that, especially the last day when everybody's been there.
Right, and you still find things.
Yeah. You think, well, how'd this get stuck? People don't realize what this is worth, evidently.
I guess I'm a limited digger. I'll kind of dig, but I'm short, and a lot of times you can't reach all the way to the bottom, especially like at some of these thrift stores that put the plush in these big wire containers, and it's they're 4 feet tall, and it's like I can't get to the bottom. I need to start bringing one of those grabber things, move stuff. But yeah, I'll dig some. It just depends.
Yeah, plush confuses me if it's like that. I don't know enough about it. It's like, oh, I'm not even gonna go there because I don't understand.
Yeah, it's its own animal, I guess. Haha. Fun.
I don't know anything about it, so I'm probably one of those people that passes by stuff that's worth a lot of money. But that's okay. You can't,
well,
you don't know everything.
More for the rest of us.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like I've heard you say it, people don't know everything. You can't know everything. You just don't, and it's You know, it's fun though. To me, it's fun. It's eBay is kind of a part-time business for me. It's not like I spend 40 hours a week in here.
Okay, right. That was
'Cause
going to be my next question. How many items do you have listed?
Well, that's going to sound like I do more work than I do. I have 1,023.
Oh, very
Yes.
good.
But I leave stuff up forever. I mean, I've sold stuff that was up there for 5 years within the last, 2 or 3 weeks. If the work's
Yeah,
done, they're not charging me extra for it. Why shouldn't I leave it up there for?
yeah, you've done the work.
I've got a house that's twice the size of where I used to live. I mean, I got no space for it.
I can accommodate a lot more.
Yeah,
Okay.
my storage system, I'm not even using the garage to store stuff, except for boxes. I have boxes
Right.
out there. But other than that, it's I just do what I want to do. But I'll tell you, the skill sets that I learned between photography and between copywriting and accuracy and managing people and dealing with people, all of that has been super beneficial to me in this. Because you get some irate customer. I know how to deal with those people. I know how, I don't think I've ever had a negative. I've had people mad at me.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever had a negative. I had one lady that accidentally put a neutral on there one time. But then she left me this rave review about this. It was a dog toy. I said, do you really want to put neutral on this? She goes, no, I didn't mean to do that. So she went back and she changed it. And not to say that I won't ever get a negative, because all it takes is the person on the other end to be a complete jerk.
Right.
Even
Well,
if you're
yeah,
nice
that's
to
always
them.
a possibility, but yeah, people are funny. I sold something last week and it was pillowcases, and I had the measurements that were on the tag inside the pillowcase, and the lady wanted to argue with me about the measurements. And she sent me all these pictures of, here's a king size, here's a standard, yours is this and that, and then the yardstick and all the pictures. And I'm like, you don't have to prove anything. If it's not right, send it back.
Mhm.
If it's an item not as described, that's fine. Send it
Yeah.
back. I mean, it was $100 item. So yeah,
Mhm.
it was back. But and just for the listeners, you don't get a defect on an INAD unless you don't address it.
Right.
You only get defects if you sold an item that you cannot ship, you can't find it, or something like that, or the customer contacts you about the items not as described, and you don't resolve the issue. You don't
Mhm.
accept a return, or you don't answer them, or whatever. So, and on the first one, what I do is say, if I think it's only happened like twice where I broke the item when I was packing it or something, and we're so sorry. We found a defect on this item. It broke while we were shipping it, whatever. Would you like to choose something else from our store up to a whatever dollar value? And sometimes they'll take a substitution. And so you can still ship something. So that's kind of a backup. I feel like that's better customer service than just saying, oh, too bad, so sad, it broke, not shipping. I was like, and I usually make the dollar amount higher than what they bought. So
Right.
I'll be encouraged to pick out something else. So if you have items in your store, that's a great solution to not having to take that defect. If you can offer them something else, let them pick, and then you're still shipping something. So that's the way I look at it.
I've never done that.
You probably never
I
had
haven't
to.
had a lot of returns. I don't deal with clothing that much, which
Yeah.
not having a lot of I like vintage nightgowns. I sell those a lot,
Mhm.
and I've got clothing because I bought a bunch of clothing cheap and I've still got to list it. But now they're saying they're going to come out with this new thing about clothing conditions, and they're going to have all these characters. eBay's getting ready to possibly change a bunch of stuff that has to do with clothing. So I'm kind of like, do I really want to do this and then have to go back and redo all my listings?
Where did you see that information?
I saw it on somebody else's video on YouTube, and
I haven't seen any announcements about that.
They've put it into effect in one of these other countries, thinking that it's
Oh,
going to end up here. And
I
it's
see.
like they're not going to just have, they're going to have more categories of condition for clothings.
Oh, I see.
And they're not going to And if you have existing listings up, it's going to default to one that's a little bit lower than where it could be,
Okay.
you know. And so there's a couple different trains of thoughts on how to handle that. Somebody said get them all in drafts, and then when they do that, then you can release a bunch of them that have them the correct way, you know, and everybody else's is going to be lower, and you're going to have the advantage. The other is just to, do it as you can. But since I have a lot of other things I can list besides clothing right now, I think I might just not concentrate on clothing.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
And the listeners, if that happens, we will be notified. It will be in your announcements. They'll make sure we know, because I remember when they added new with defects, maybe it used to just be new or used. And then it was new with tag and new without tag. And then they added new with defects, meaning, whatever, missing a button or something like that. So that was many years ago. So they don't change that very often. It'll be interesting to see if this happens.
I don't know if it will or not,
Yeah, but it's, interesting to watch and see, but don't worry. Listeners,
he puts things out there.
They will tell us months in advance, just like with managed payments, when that was going to happen, and all the other things that happen. They'll let us know, and we can all come up with strategies, like you said, have them in drafts to be ready to release when the new conditions are added. But yeah, it's really hard to keep up with those item specifics. Do you ever end listings and start them over?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Every morning I get into my computer. I look up the earliest start date, and then I go down those and look for all the ones that have had no views, and I pick out the top 5 of those, the first 5 I see, and I end those and start over. And
so I'm glad you do it that way. I do it that way. I go to the oldest. Some sellers prefer to end and restart what's ending that day, which does not make sense to me, because you're not getting charged. That used to be the thing when you were going to get charged for it. But now most of the time, depending on your store subscription or whatever, you're not getting charged. So why not go back to the oldest ones that have been sitting there the longest and evaluate, do you need to change the price? Are there item specifics that you don't have checked? That's what gets me, is when I end and restart, there's new choices there that weren't there before. And sometimes they're relevant, sometimes they're not. But that does get you higher in search the more of those you have filled out. So I just feel like it's more beneficial to focus on the oldest listings, especially if they're not getting any traffic, and do what you can to change that so they do get traffic.
Yeah, the views are really important to me, because I can go into the oldest listing and it's got 14 views in the last month. I'm not going to relist that. I'm just going to go down to one that has 0, or maybe 1, or something like that. And usually I go to 0. I just keep going until I get 5 zeros, and then today there was one that was 0 that had been 3, last month, and so it was the top one on the list. And I thought, okay, that's going in there now. It's got 0 on it.
Well, that is a good strategy. I like that. Looking for the 0 views, because you got to change something to get some views.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've come up with. I used to do it the way you described, the ones that were getting ready to end. Yeah,
because they used to charge you for them.
Yeah.
So you didn't want them to renew if you're going to end them and restart them. You want to change something before you get charged. But now
I used to keep that way, but I quit doing that. So yes, I try to do that every day. I don't always get to it on the weekends, but I try to do it every day.
You got a lot going on with all your jobs and your volunteer work and keeping up your house and running your eBay business. You're busy.
It keeps me busy, keeps me out of trouble.
Good.
I've got a lot of energy, and I need somewhere to put it.
Good for you. Do you have any final parting words for the listeners?
For people that are starting out, I had wrote down a few things that would have been really helpful to me when I was starting out. The first one is to watch a bunch of videos. Find several resellers that have really good videos. Suzanne's good. Suzanne's Facebook page is good. The BOLO book is excellent. But there's also a whole bunch of them, and you can find them because there's lots of little nuances that people don't know about when they first start that they kind of have to learn the hard way unless somebody tells them. The other thing is there's a lot of them that cover what people have been selling, like you do on yours. You know what people have been selling, and there's several of those, and you learn about different things, and I'm learning every day. I still listen to them all the time. I've got my TV now to where I've got a Fire Stick on there where I can put eBay, YouTube up on my TV, and if I'm editing pictures or something, I can sit in my den with my feet up and I can watch
Yes,
these videos, and
absolutely.
I can actually see the items that they're showing. It's not on my phone where it's like the size of a quarter when you look at it and you're going, what is that?
Right.
So now I
Well,
can
I've
see.
noticed on the, I guess, call them shopping videos where the people will find an item and then they'll pull it up on their phone to see what it's sold for. And I'd rather see like a person show the whole process from start to finish. I found this item, I listed this item, I sold this item. Just because you find that thing that somebody else sold for $80 does not mean yours is going to. I mean, you've got to buy it, you've got to actually list it, which is the hurdle for a lot of people, and it has to sell. So I felt like those are misleading. I know they're more about YouTube than about eBay because they're wanting to get the YouTube revenue. And so they're showing the best case scenario, which we would all like to have. But I don't know. I've never been a fan of the haul videos because those items didn't sell. You just bought them.
Yeah,
And the proof is in when it sells.
that's true. And I'm with you on that. I still watch them every once in a while just because they're on. But
Entertainment, yeah.
yeah, just to see, sometimes you see something familiar or whatever. But most of the ones I watch are the what solds.
Yeah, those
Some
are
of the people
great.
that
I
we're
watch
doing,
those.
some of the people that we're doing a lot of hauls are, I think they've wised up and they're doing more about what solds now than
Yeah, I think they're seeing the numbers of those videos that are getting viewed are the what solds.
because
That's
that's where it's the truth comes out.
right. Exactly. Okay. Well, I enjoyed spending the last hour with you and chatting about eBay. So you're just gonna stay inside and stay warm and not go into the icy outdoors today?
Exactly. And I didn't want to send, 16 people out into the icy outdoors either. So I've decided to cancel my class. So I'm
Good
going to be
plan.
sitting here, probably do some photography this afternoon. And
Well, enjoy hunkering down. That system's headed our way, so we'll see if we actually get any snow or not, because right now we're in the snow alert / panic state where everyone's at the grocery store buying all the food and like, okay. And half the time it never even happens.
yeah, is it really cold there? Somebody said it was 20 degrees in Florida or something. I was like, what?
It's about 35 to 40.
So
So
it's not
it
much
is
warmer
cold
than,
enough. And then after the system moves through, it will be in the 20s. So it'll be a yucky frozen over mess.
well, and see, that's the thing is we would be coming home at 9:30 at night tonight.
Mhm.
That would have been a sheet of ice. And it's
Not
like,
safe. Yeah. Good
no,
for you. So,
no, not
okay.
good.
Well, I'll let you go and get to your photography and your listing.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. And we'll see you on the Facebook group.
Okay, thanks a
Okay.
lot. Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you, Jane. For today's parting words, I found a graphic that is relevant to us as entrepreneurs. So let me try to explain this since you can't see it. It's called the 2% mindset, and it has a circle, and inside the circle is 98% of the population operates in their comfort zone, which means things like being like everyone else, playing it safe, operating in survival mode, settling for less, and fear of change. So 2% of the population, which is us as entrepreneurs, operates outside of that, doing things like going for their dreams, being confident, exploring new things, choosing happiness, acting in spite of fear, living without limits, abundance, liking change, excitement about life, and embracing the unknown. So you can Google that, the 2% mindset, if you want to take a look at it. It's just interesting that entrepreneurs do have a certain mindset, and this is mapped out in a graphic. So you can save it, put it on your phone, put it on your desktop, and remember that we are different. Okay, next week, my guest is Patty, who was on the show in April of 2022. She will check in and catch us up on how her eBay business has evolved in the last almost 3 years. Thank you again for listening, and now get out there and be that 2% that goes for their dreams. Talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.